AITA for choosing my family's farm over my GF. I, 24M, am in the middle of what feels like the worst decision of my life. For context, I've been with my girlfriend, Sarah, 23F, for 3 years. We've been talking about marriage, kids, and all that future stuff, but recently things have taken a turn that has me questioning everything. My family owns a 200-acre farm about an hour south of Nashville, Tennessee. It's been in the family for generations. My great-grandparents bought it during the Great Depression, and it's been passed down ever since. It's a beautiful place, and I've grown up with it as a central part of my life. I spent my childhood helping my dad and grandpa with the animals, planting crops, and learning how to fix every broken fence and tractor. There's a certain magic to the place. Sunsets that look like they're straight out of a painting, the smell of fresh hay, and the quiet that only exists miles away from city life. The farm is my soul. It's where I feel most at peace. Sarah, on the other hand, grew up in a suburban neighborhood in Nashville. She's the kind of girl who has always dreamed of living in a cul-de-sac with a white picket fence, neighbors that say hi every morning, and a community pool where she can take the kids on weekends. She's never been a country girl, and I knew that going in, but I thought maybe she'd grow to love the farm like I do, or at least be okay with it. But no. Recently, we've been having these tense, uncomfortable conversations about where we'll live once we're married. Sarah has flat out told me she's not willing to live on the farm. She says she doesn't feel safe out there, that it's too isolated, and that she doesn't want to raise kids in the country where the nearest grocery store is a 20-minute drive away. She's used to convenience and feels like she'd be sacrificing her whole life to live in a place that doesn't fit her. We went to look at houses in her preferred areas, neighborhoods full of cookie-cutter homes with manicured lawns and HOA fees. Don't get me wrong, they were nice, but they didn't feel like home to me. The more we talked, the clearer it became that Sarah wasn't budging. She gave me an ultimatum last week. Either we live in the city or we're done. And I get it, kind of. Sarah works as a teacher in Nashville, and the city is her comfort zone. But it still stung hearing her say she wouldn't even consider the farm. My parents are getting older, and I've always imagined myself taking over the farm one day, keeping the legacy alive. But Sarah wants the opposite, a life away from muck boots, hay bales, and early morning chores. Yesterday, things hit a breaking point. Sarah and I were having dinner at her place, and I brought up the idea of her at least spending a few nights a week on the farm as a compromise. She got quiet and then told me, point blank, that she'd rather be single than live out there. It felt like a punch in the gut. She didn't even try to hide the fact that she'd leave me over this. She said she couldn't see herself happy there, and that it wasn't fair to raise kids in the middle of nowhere without access to good schools, friends, or activities. Then she asked me what I really wanted, her or the farm. I just sat there, speechless. I've been living in a fog ever since. The way she put it was so cold, and it made me realize how incompatible our dreams might actually be. I love Sarah, I really do, but the farm is part of me. Giving it up feels like cutting off a piece of my soul. My parents have always expected me to take over, and it's something I've looked forward to my whole life. It's not just land. It's my family's history and future all wrapped up in one. But I don't want to lose Sarah either. I've been spinning in circles trying to figure out how to make this work. Part of me is resentful that she's not even willing to try to understand what the farm means to me, while another part of me is scared that if I choose the farm, I'll end up bitter and alone, thinking about what could have been. My friends are split. Some say I should stick to my roots and not let anyone push me away from what I love. Others say love is about compromise, and maybe Sarah's ultimatum is her way of setting a boundary. I don't know who to listen to anymore. Last night, I was back at the farm, feeding the cows and thinking about everything. The sun was setting, casting this golden glow over the fields, and I just broke down. I realized that I couldn't picture my life without this place. But then, as I watched the barn cats chase each other around, I started picturing a life without Sarah, and it hurt just as much. Sarah hasn't spoken to me since our fight. She's waiting for an answer, and I know she won't wait forever. I feel like no matter what I choose, I'm going to lose something important. I'm torn between the life I've always dreamed of and the woman I love, and I don't know if there's a way to have both. So, would I be the asshole if I chose the farm over my girlfriend? Or am I being unreasonable for holding on to something that might not be as important as building a future with Sarah? I keep thinking about my kids running around the same fields I did, but now I'm starting to wonder if that dream is worth the cost. Update. I decided to have a serious conversation with Sarah, but it didn't go as planned. I tried to explain in detail what the farm means to me, how it's more than just land, but a legacy, a home, and a way of life that I don't want to give up. I told her about my vision of our future, with our kids playing with the animals and learning the value of hard work in nature. I poured my heart out, hoping she'd see where I was coming from. But Sarah doubled down. She said she respects the farm's history, but she doesn't want that kind of life. She talked about wanting her kids to have access to good schools, dance classes, and friends they could ride bikes with in a safe neighborhood. She said she's not willing to raise a family in the middle of nowhere. Then she said something that really stuck with me. "I love you, but I can't love your dream." That line has been ringing in my head ever since. I realized that Sarah and I aren't just disagreeing about where to live. We have fundamentally different visions for our future. And maybe that's not something we can compromise on. I've been thinking a lot about my parents and how they've managed to keep the farm going all these years. They had their own struggles, sacrifices, and moments of doubt. My dad once told me that the farm is like a living thing. You have to nurture it, care for it, and sometimes make tough decisions to keep it going. I never really understood what he meant until now. I spent the weekend helping my dad repair a fence line, and we talked about everything. He told me that no matter what, he'd support my decision. But he also said something I wasn't expecting. If you choose the farm, you have to be all in. There's no half-assed way to do this. It made me realize that this decision isn't just about Sarah. It's about my commitment to the life I want. Sarah and I met up yesterday for coffee, and it was emotional. We both cried. I told her that I've made my choice and that I can't walk away from the farm. She hugged me and said she kind of knew what I'd decide all along. We agreed to go our separate ways. It was heartbreaking, but in a weird way, it felt like the right thing. We want such different things, and forcing it would only make us both miserable in the long run. So, that's it. I chose the farm. I'm heartbroken, but also relieved to have made a decision. I'm not sure what the future holds, but at least now, I can focus on building the life I've always wanted. Sarah deserves to be happy too, and I hope she finds someone whose dreams align with hers.